What's up, basketball fans? Welcome to the Raptor Report. It is time to talk about the Toronto Raptors. We've got an insane amount of rumors. Most Indian people will sell you a 2-for-1 deal, 3-for-1 deal. I'm about to cover about 5, 6, 7 different rumors about the Toronto Raptors. No one's going to be more generous than this Indian man right here. So if you're ready to watch, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And with that being said, let's get into today's video. Now, as you guys know, we do like to give out shout outs on this channel, and the shout out for today's video goes out to The Real Foil. Thank you so much for supporting this channel through your likes and comments. It is very much appreciated. Let's talk about our first rumor here, which is a handful of teams have checked in on Chris Boucher, according to Michael Scotto. And I always want to give a shout out to Raptors Update on Instagram. They've been providing such quick updates regarding some of the trade rumors on the Toronto Raptors. So definitely check them out on Instagram as well. But some of the teams that are being linked to Chris Boucher, let's talk about them as well. It's stated today, according to Aaron Rose, that two Western Conference teams said to be interested in Raptors forward Chris Boucher. The San Antonio Spurs and Denver Nuggets are both said to be interested in acquiring Toronto Raptors forward Chris Boucher ahead of the NBA trade deadline. Aaron Rose also went on to state that the San Antonio Spurs have emerged as a potential suitor for Toronto Raptors forward Chris Boucher as next month's trade deadline approaches. According to Matt Moore of Fanside, both the Spurs and the Denver Nuggets have expressed interest in the 6'9" forward. San Antonio is reportedly seeking additional front court depth behind Victor Wembanyama, while Denver is desperately looking to bolster its rotation for a playoff push. And according to Ian Begley, who was the first to report that Denver's interest in Boucher, I want to take a little bit of credit. I came out with a trade video a month ago, and I said Denver would be a perfect landing spot for Chris Boucher. But pretty much the article goes on to state that the Spurs appear better positioned to facilitate a trade given their financial flexibility as a team operating below the luxury tax. Backup point guard Trey Jones, who is on an expiring contract, could be a centerpiece in a potential deal with Toronto. Additionally, the Spurs hold a second-round pick in this year's draft, courtesy of the Chicago Bulls, which would sweeten the package. So seeing Denver on here does not surprise me. I've come up with several trade videos for the Toronto Raptors, and I've listed how Chris Boucher has been or could be a great potential pickup for a team like the Denver Nuggets there. But in terms of the San Antonio Spurs, this is very fascinating considering the Raptors. And of course, we know the Spurs traded for Kawhi Leonard, but even after that, both these teams have made several trades, which kind of tells you those front offices are, always looking out for each other's players and which players could help each other's teams out as well. So it doesn't surprise me. But in terms of the Spurs salary cap situation, let's take a look at it, because Chris Boucher makes about $9.5–10 million. So in terms of matching salaries and what realistically the Raptors could get back if they were to trade Chris Boucher to the Spurs, Victor Wembanyama. If I'm the Toronto Raptors, I'm asking for Victor Wembanyama. No, all jokes aside, Trey Jones was the player that was mentioned. His $9 million deal makes sense for the Toronto Raptors. He's also only 25. If the Spurs decide they don't want to pay him, he could be a Raptors backup point guard for the future. Also, I'm going to throw this out there. I don't think the Spurs will do this, and I actually think the Raptors would have to throw in second-round picks, very likely, to acquire Jeremy Sohan. That could be a very fascinating player. Again, only 21. He's a power forward. Raptors could always use depth at the front court themselves as well. So that could be interesting. But just, again, given the Spurs and where they are, I just don't see them trading, Jeremy. So it's the likelihood that it is Trey Jones is probably very high, just considering in terms of making the money work. If they weren't to throw in that or Jeremy Sohan, you would honestly have to package about 3 players together. And even then, it comes a little bit short of $9 million. So again, I just don't see this deal where it's not Trey Jones. Again, if it's Jeremy Sohan, maybe the Raptors throw in Portland's second-round pick. And considering where Portland is in the standings, it's going to be probably a top 3 pick in the second round. So maybe the Spurs get enticed by that. But again, I just don't see the Spurs giving up Jeremy Sohan. But it'll be fascinating in terms of what deals get done with Chris Boucher, because he has been a hot name on the trade market as well. So let's move on to our next trade rumor here. And it was being reported a few days ago that the Clippers of all teams are showing interest in the Raptors forward Chris Boucher. Now, we know Clippers are notorious for stealing Raptors players. They were scouting Kawhi Leonard in our championship run. Then they obviously got Norman Powell. They signed Serge Ibaka as well. And they tried to get Kyle Lowry to come there as well. He didn't go there. But They also tried to trade for Fred VanVleet as well. Now, very interesting that the Clippers are doing this. I guess they really want to just make a push for the playoffs. And you know what? Kawhi Leonard doesn't have a lot of time left in the NBA, in my personal opinion. So they want to make the most of it and just acquire whatever bench help they can get. In terms of their salary cap situation, though, this is where it always gets fascinating. They're not trading Derek Jones. He's a great contract value for 27-year-old, just considering what he brings, to a team. He can play small forward, power forward. He can play many positions, and that's not really a player I think the Clippers want to move off of. In terms of some of the other players, have to make a 2-for-1 deal. Chris Dunn, Nicholas Batum. I don't see Nicholas Batum is a veteran player that, despite his age, has played very well for the Clippers, and I just don't see him being traded. Bones Highland could be a player that, the Clippers could look to move. The only question is, will the Raptors take him? Because the Raptors aren't a team that want to deal with players that give you headaches. Bone Highland has been notorious for that. I mean, he went on to state that he thought he should have played ahead of Jamal Murray in Denver. That's why he got traded right away. And then his career really hasn't blossomed ever since, even coming onto the Clippers. But one player I do think of when I think about the Clippers and making salaries work is PJ Tucker. He's voiced his displeasure with the Clippers organization, wanting to go somewhere else. So maybe the Raptors trade for him, but this is where it gets tricky because the Clippers have one second round pick they can throw in, and starting from I believe 2029, they have 3 years of first round picks they can throw in there as well. So that's where it gets very interesting. Do the Raptors really want to take on PJ Tucker's contract, even though it's expiring and he's very likely to get waived? Not necessarily, right? I mean, you're honestly just treating him and waiving him most likely, and then the second round pick isn't a ton. So again, maybe you could acquire a top 25 protected pick from the Clippers. Who knows? Again, it's not great value in terms of what you're getting back. So we'll see what happens. Maybe they take Chris Dunn and Amir Coffey or Kobe Brown and one of those players to kind of make the money work. But regardless, I mean, we'll see what happens. Clippers aren't a team that has a lot of interesting picks or young players that, from the Raptors' point of view, that I'd personally want. But let's talk about another Western Conference team that is also showing interest in not only Chris Boucher, but Kelly Olynyk as well. So it's being reported by Brett Siegel that the Warriors are showing interest in not only Kelly Olynyk, who has been previously linked to the Warriors, but also Chris Boucher as well. So similarly to how we looked at the other two teams, taking a look at the money situation here with the Warriors, they're obviously a team that's in the luxury tax. So in terms of what works and what the Raptors would want in terms of wanting a player that could actually not only replace Chris Boucher, is someone that you could really want. I keep coming back to this player. Kyle Anderson makes so much sense, but you would have to throw in one more player to make the deal work. Again, I just don't see them trading Tracy Jackson Davis just because they're already so they already don't have a lot of depth at the center position. So he's definitely not getting traded. It's very likely Lindy Waters, the third, who's going to get traded. And again, this is where it always gets complicated. Just given this season, not a lot of teams are giving up first round picks unless, of course, it would be someone like a Cam Johnson that's getting moved. So for a lot of role players like Chris Boucher, you're at least going to get a second round pick, but I just don't see a team giving up more than a second round pick. So Kyle Anderson could be a very interesting player. Again, he's 31, doesn't exactly fit the timeline, you could argue, but he's a sound defender. He's a good defender, and he does a little bit of everything. He rebounds the ball. He's not a great scorer, but he facilitates. And I just feel like in the Raptors system, he would fit in really well. Slow-mo, they like to call him. I've always liked him for several years. So that's personally a player I'd definitely want in return for a Chris Boucher. Yes, you're taking on a little bit of money in terms of, how many years he has left on that contract, but we'll see what happens. Let's move on to our last couple of trade rumors here surrounding the Toronto Raptors. Now, Jake Fisher was reporting today that the Toronto Raptors have signaled a willingness to grease deals around the NBA. Now, what does this mean? The Raptors have a bunch of expiring contracts in Bruce Brown and Chris Boucher. Kelly Olynyk is not expiring, but he could be moved as well. It's very reasonable for a stretch power forward, whatever you want to call him, to have value around the NBA. And this is why it's so perfect. And I didn't mention Davion Mitchell's $6 million. So they've got a lot of contracts, a lot of expiring contracts, a lot of different positions as well. The forward position is one that a lot of teams could always use, just considering the NBA and the way that it has moved in the last few years. So the Toronto Raptors, in terms of what kind of deals they can get done around the NBA, definitely has to be a third team. Again, Jimmy Butler being traded, that's something I've mentioned in my video. You get Bruce Brown to another team, or I should say to the Miami Heat, because they don't want to take on long-term money. But if that doesn't work, you have some of the smaller contracts in Chris Boucher, who's making around $9-10 million. And then you got Davion Mitchell, who's making $6 million, expiring contract. A lot of playoff teams could use him as well. And then, of course, Kelly Olynyk. He can stretch the floor. that's a luxury to have even as a backup center in this league. So they have a lot of players that they can definitely trade straight up, but also really initiate the salaries as a third team as well. And they'll definitely be compensated for that as well. So I really do understand when they talk about the Raptors getting some of these deals done and willingness to get some deals done around the NBA. And hopefully the Raptors are a little bit more active and more ready to jump on some of these trades rather than waiting till the trade deadline, what they've done pretty much in the previous seasons, besides probably last season, because they were in a really weird situation with, of course, OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam. But let's move on to our last trade rumor here. And this is one that really took me by surprise. And this was stating, again, reported by Jake Fisher, the Raptors are very motivated to move Bruce Brown. That wasn't the surprising part. It was being stated that the Raptors are very motivated to move Brown and his $23 million salary, sources said, in hopes of growing the return from trading Pascal Siakam to Indiana on January 17, 2024. If no trade materializes, this is where I was really shocked, but also a little bit upset. If no trade materializes involving Brown, he would surely be in great demand as a buyout candidate. Now, why does this frustrate me as a Raptors fan? It's quite simple. The New York Knicks were a team that was rumored to be very interested in Bruce Brown. In fact, so interested that Bruce Brown even said Tom Thibodeau was a great coach. He would love to play for him. He said that last year, something along the lines of that, where he spoke very highly of Tom Thibodeau, of course, the New York head coach. And this is where it gets frustrating because now you're going to waive him, you're going to lose him for nothing. But you could have got one of New York's first round picks last season. It would have been better than nothing. Now they're getting offered second round picks. And look, people will say it's a weak draft class. Regardless, guys, look at someone like Ryan Dunn for the Phoenix Suns. Look how well he's playing. He went in the 20s. There's always going to be good players that you can always find. And honestly, if you ask me, a first round pick is great in any draft, regardless, guys. Regardless if it's, obviously it'd be luxury to have it in the lottery or just outside the lottery, but even in the 20s, you can find good players as well. So it's a little bit frustrating as a Raptors fan. And this is what I was talking about when I talked about the Raptors really should get deals done and really just not wait till last minute at the end of the trade deadline and hope, you get a deal done, because this is where you should have jumped on the opportunity to trade Bruce Brown. So again, a little bit frustrating. And I do want to mention that Denver Nuggets were mentioned as a team. If he were to get waived, they would want to reunite with Bruce Brown as well. So again, these are the rumors, guys. I just want to say thank you. You guys always support me. I read the comments. I really do appreciate all your support. There is no trivia question for today. And the only reason is I know sometimes you guys at work, we're all adults, we're busy. You don't always get to watch a video right away. So I'm going to give this chance to you. If you like a shout out, if you've been watching my videos for a while, just comment down below. I'll give multiple people shout outs for my next video. I know not everyone gets to comment right away. Whatever the case is, you're at work, you got kids, you're at school, whatever the case is, I'm going to give you that chance to give a shout out to you guys. If you want to shout out, let me know in the comment section below. And that is it for today's video. So thank you so much for watching. And I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.